right, another short video. Thank you all for clicking on the video. Let's just get right into it. Here we go. This first email is from Terry. Here's what she writes. When I was in the 9th grade, my mother told me the story of an incident that occurred when she was a young girl. At the time of the incident, my mother, her siblings, and my grandmother were living with one of my mother's aunts, I believe, near Noble, Arkansas. I'm guessing this incident would have occurred in the early to mid-1930s as my mother was born in 1923. They resided near a wooded area where my mom's uncle hunted regularly. She said her uncle had set out one moonlit night to coon hunt with his dog and later came running back inside the house, breathless, telling them a horrifying experience that had just happened to him. He said at one point while he was out, his dog suddenly stopped and was looking upwards towards a large tree branch that stretched across the path above them. When my uncle looked up, there on a branch stood a very large man covered in long dark hair, looking angry down at him. Terrified, he turned to run, and he didn't stop running until he reached the safety of the house. She recalled how frantic he was and kept looking out the windows to make sure the man hadn't followed him home. She also recalled that a few weeks later her uncle's hair began to turn white, she supposed from the stress and fear he had experienced and continued to experience. For as long as they continued to live there, she never witnessed him going out to hunt again, even during the day. The dog also seemed to stay closer to the house. My mother's memory of this was elicited as a response to me coming home from school to tell her that our 9th grade science teacher had played the clip of the famous Patterson-Gimlin Bigfoot film for our class that day. I have had a personal experience with what I imagine could only have been a Bigfoot many years later. It was March 1989 and a coworker and I were traveling in the early morning hours, headed toward home in North Texas on US 82-287 and had just skirted the town of Henrietta, Texas. My coworker was the driver and I was in the front passenger seat. I don't remember the time, but I do remember the sun was just coming up and it wasn't totally dark any longer. As we were just about to clear the guardrail at the north end of the bridge over the Little Wichita River, I caught movement in my peripheral vision, turned my head to the right, and watched as a tall, dark creature covered in hair was running upright toward the highway. It appeared to me that our vehicle and this animal were going to collide. I instinctively slid towards the driver's side of the vehicle to attempt to protect myself as much as I could from the impact. Somehow it ran so fast that it managed to cross the highway ahead of us. He was obviously moving much faster than I thought. It crossed close enough in front of our vehicle that my coworker and I both saw it clearly. It disappeared on the left side of the highway and into the trees. We both screamed in unison, "What was that?" I can't begin to tell you how tall it was as it happened so quickly, and my mind was trying to rationalize what my eyes were seeing. I know it was much larger than a person. It ran on 2 legs as a human would and was nothing I had ever seen before. I was 32 years old at the time of this incident. I had spent a great deal of time in wooded areas, deer, turkey, and coyote hunting with my family members since I was a child. I've never personally witnessed anything like this creature before or since. I can only surmise it was Sasquatch. Nothing else matches the description of what we saw that morning. Since my science teacher had shown my junior high class that clip of the Patterson-Gimlin film years before, I knew what a Sasquatch was, but I never imagined the possibility of a sighting in Texas. Now, years later, it seems they are quite common all over the U.S. Oh, what a great story. This is one of those older stories from the 1930s. A man, her uncle, runs into some kind of beast up on a branch, and it scares him so bad that his hair turns white, and it stays that way for years. I don't know. That's fascinating to me. I know, well, never mind. I was going to talk about some guys I know with stripes and gray stripes in their head and stuff. And I always wonder what scared them, but it's probably just a hereditary thing, or I don't know. Who knows? This is a great story, Terry. Thank you for sending it. We all enjoyed it. I went to my little niece's wedding yesterday down in Oxford, Mississippi. Really nice place. It was like an all-weekend ordeal. Plenty of beer, plenty of people, plenty of music, lots of food, lots of fun. It's a big wedding. It's my brother's daughter. I kind of feel sorry for all the money he had to spend on that. But boy, they showed everybody a great time. The band was great. But anyway, all that to say, you see family members that you hadn't seen in a long time and friends, and there were tons of people there. And everybody's hugging everybody's neck, even in COVID. Yeah, down in Mississippi, we still hug everybody. Several people would give me a hug, especially some of the women. They go, "Oh, Cam, you smell great." And I'm like, well, I started using this Yeti soap, and this soap sticks on me all day, and it makes me smell nice. I never wear cologne anyway, but it almost about halfway feels like I do. We've been crappie fishing a little bit lately, and I've got sunburn on my neck, and I put some of the Yeti salve on my neck, which is a lotion or a moisturizer. That smells good too, so I smell good all day. I want you guys to check out Yeti bars. They have great soaps, several kind of scents and types of soap, no scented soap. YetiBars.net. Go take a look at YetiBars.net. Use the code DC10 at checkout and get a 10% discount off your purchase. Yeti bars are cheaper than pretty much any other custom soap out there by about 20%, more than 20% cheaper. You guys should check them out. YetiBars.net and Yeti Bars on Facebook. Let's do one more. This is from Penny. She says, my name is Penny. In 2000, my family and I went on a vacation from our home in Oklahoma to Devil's Den State Park in western Arkansas. It was hot, so we decided to leave the back door open to get some air. Of course, we left the screen shut to keep out the mosquitoes. It was around 3 a.m. when I woke to a feeling of absolute dread. Made the hair stand up on the back of my neck. I could hear something outside the camper, but I couldn't make out what it was. It sounded like a low growl, a shuffling around. I didn't want to wake my husband because he thought I was nutty about Bigfoot. I didn't know what to do, so I just laid there and I tried to figure out what was outside our camper. The next day, I talked to the lady at the main office about it. I told her I had checked around the camper for footprints, but hadn't seen any due to the rocky soil. I also described the low growl I heard. She didn't seem the least bit surprised by what I was telling her. She just smiled, leaned in, and said in her southern voice, "Honey, why do y'all think it's called the Devil's Den State Park?" The next encounter happened to my 13-year-old son in 2001. We were staying at a lodge in Branson, Missouri at Table Rock Lake. It was a place called Indian Point. And in the middle of the night, something woke my son up. He came running into our room yelling something about a huge hairy face looking into the bay window at him. He'd been sleeping on the couch in the living room that night. It frightened him enough to keep him from going back out there to sleep. We locked all the windows and doors, which was about all we could do at that point. Then I asked my son how big he thought it was. He said it had bent down to look in the window. That would have made the thing approximately 9 feet tall. The next morning, I spoke with the owner of the lodge, and he told me there had been many encounters with this creature. He said it was even known to raid the trash bin. We decided it was time to head back to Oklahoma. Years later, we ended up in I can't pronounce this, man, Washington. The Northwest, Pacific Northwest has the weirdest spelled cities I have ever seen. Puyallup, Puyallup. So you all say it in your own head. There have been numerous accounts of loud screams coming from the woods near Fort Lewis and McChord Air Force Base. And nobody seems to know what it is. But I think I know what it is. Penny, I bet you do know what it is. I mean, you had one looking in your bay window, And the Pacific Northwest is notorious for Bigfoot sightings. So this was great. This was interesting. Happened back in 2000, several years ago. Just a typical Bigfoot encounter, looking in the window. Chalk one more up for the typical behavior of a Bigfoot observing humans. Penny, thank you so much for sending it. It was great. All right, it's Sunday morning, not another short one. I wanted to knock one out quick and get some stories out before I get back to work. I've probably got 2 or 3 more weeks of busy hours, and then the Dixie shorts will be fewer and fewer, but the marathons will be more and more. I'm also working on another project, another podcast that I will let you guys know about when I have it all up and loaded. So I'm going to have 3 podcasts out. That's how much I enjoy doing this. So hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you.